This is a documentation of the Scroll of Silence, also a manuscript that shows the sabotage and abrogation of the Constitution and multiple breaches of law by government, contrary to all constitutional due process principles dealing with life, liberty, and property. However, the purpose of this video is for the copywriting of this document in the Library of Congress, since it is property that I have created and put together, and it is an illustrated, if you will, set of documents and images and graphic arts that depict and highlight, if you will, illuminate the manuscripts and the court documents, emails, etc., that show the abrogation of the Constitution through treason and sabotage and subterfuge and deceit. Basically, also very clearly described in laws in terms of theft by extortion, insurrection and rebellion, and other laws, as can be seen clearly when the scroll is examined with due diligence and the necessary requisites for such things as appraisal of this scroll, which is also property, and if it shows the destruction of the Constitution, and the Constitution is the most valuable document we as a people possess, since in a sense all authority from contractual obligations and duties to contractual legal tender to any contract basically is predicated on the ability of that contract to be adjudicated in court under the principles laid out by the Constitution. If this document here shows the abrogation of the Constitution, then by its intrinsic depictions, it is a valuable document too, because in a sense it's a historical document that shows the end of the United States as we know it, as a country of laws, where public servants who are functionaries who are there to uphold the due process rules derived from the Constitution have abrogated that public trust, have breached their own contracts, their own oaths to protect and uphold the Constitution, and have instead placed themselves above the constitutional authority that really gives them authority. And once they place themselves above such authority, in fact, they have negated their very ability to rule, because the Constitution does protect itself against insurrection and rebellion and removes any authority from those that are in such position. That being said, as I said, the copyright rules and regulations say that I need to provide them a copy of this scroll or a photograph or some kind of depiction that they can have on record for the legal requirements that the Library of Congress has in managing a record of all documents and images and so on that it is mandated to record, also for copyright and property purposes. In a sense, this document also shows that I have been denied my inalienable citizens' rights to due process over life, liberty, and property. And this document, they would have a very difficult time appraising such, because in the intrinsic values of things, there are debts and remedies and needs to be made whole that are legal requirements that also have been abrogated by this current administration and Congress in their sabotaging of the judicial system, which protects people and their life, liberty, and property, as well as market rights, civil rights, contractual rights, etc. So I'm going to be zooming in and out of this document because it is a 30-foot scroll and you are just looking at the beginning of such, and you will see that it is illustrated, but also that it has content. And such content can be seen in emails, that one can read upon examination. And as I said, if one need to look at the scroll itself, that's what the scroll is there for. It is also there to be used as evidence in court, because, as I said, it shows breaches of law by all kinds of parties, inclusive of the federal government and the state of Maryland, the Secret Service, the DOD, etc. It shows property that was stolen and not adjudicated. Right here we will be zooming in on the signature of Secret Service Agent Hosey. In a bid to attain theft by extortion. And so far, that bid has been successful. However, the extortion part and the coercion part is now failing as this information goes out. Here we have letters depicting lies that were entered into court, and the testimony is by other people saying that such lies were entered into court. And you can see, again, signed statements. This man entered false information into court. His name is Mark Emden. And in any case, the document is 30 feet worth of scroll. You can see one end, the other end there, and I'm going to unwind it now so that people can get, again, for copyright purposes, an idea of what the images are, though they can't read it really at this distance. That would be for court and jury at another time, but I've got it set up so I can scroll it in, and that's what I'm going to be doing right now so that people can see it is what it is for the Copyright Office records that are necessary. And here we've got the scrolling dealie, which is really kind of neat because it puts the whole story in, and when there's a chance to go back and forth and verify who said what, who did what, because again, if you recall, most crime is over fungible instruments, loot, if you will, or assets. And you will see there are many assets that are unadjudicated here, and many lies that are apparent officials who are not supposed to be lying, much less lying in court. I have to rearrange this every now and then so that it evens out. I'm not scrolling, but you will see all kinds of documents, court documents, judges' signatures on documents. I've got judges lying on here. I've got assistant state's attorneys lying on here. I've got lawyers lying on here. And the lies are documented. And much of it from various different court testimonies. Then there's emails detailing property, and emails detailing property the government received and doesn't want to pay for, which again, is not allowed to do, according to laws that are also in this document. And then there's intellectual property that's shown, and other breaches of civil rights. But for copyright purposes, this should be good enough to file an electronic filing of an image of the document that is to be copyrighted. Now, mind you, whenever a document is made and is original, it automatically has copyright status by the person who made it. But you get a little more formal in law with the document copyrighted at the Library of Congress. And there are also some images at the end of this document, which I was going to cut off, but I figure I'll leave it in here for the moment and maybe make it a permanent part of this scroll. But the point here is that this is property. It's also crime evidence of treason and sabotage of the constitutional and due process principles, which government officials are to uphold by law, and they have egregiously breached such rules of law. That's the end of the scroll there. And again, there's some illustrations. Right there by the church, you have the definitions in law of theft by extortion. All you need is one criterion met. I can show all 7 met, inclusive of in this document. There are 7 criterion, any one of which met means theft by extortion. In my case, I can show all 7 have been met. And so here we are. Now, the other useful thing is that when government officials are made known of crime, they're required, as are citizens in fact, to put a stop to crime. And there are government agencies that are also there to appraise property. And as soon as this goes to the Copyright Office, I'm taking it to the ASC, which is another government agency that is there to appraise property. And since a government agent a copyright official will be reviewing this for copyright uniqueness purposes, in a sense, a government official has been made known. I've already made known through the internet and through communications to various people, government, about this crime, and nobody has done anything about it, contrary to law, which is you're required to stop a criminal conspiracy, especially if you're a part of it and you want to remove yourself from such conspiracy. You've got to actively thwart such. And nobody's really tried to stop this ongoing financial rape, which also includes torture, and definitions of torture have been met. Includes robbery. as I mentioned, theft by extortion, conspiracy against rights, imparting and conveying false information. There are many laws that have been broken in this nightmare that this document depicts, beginning with intellectual property that went to DARPA and the TSA in 2002. So that's going on 8 years ago. And in that point and period of time, nothing has been settled property-wise. Obviously, there's unadjudicated property and duress, coercion, kidnapping, torture, all under color of law have occurred, and it's documented here, again showing the destruction of the Constitution. So this is going to go to the Copyright Office for an official to go over it and deliver the copyright seal, if you will, and then it is going to the ASC, and they are going to show that they cannot appraise this property until court adjudication has occurred. And since all property has a value, it shows again the loss of the good faith and credit of the United States as a country of laws that has due process that allows property to be adjudicated in court, so that one doesn't have to deal with looters and torturers and kidnappers in government, or in theory anywhere else.